Welcome back to the pipeline. We have, I believe, the first Monad native episode of the pipeline here today. Absolutely ecstatic to have on some Chads from RareBetSports. We have Zachy, the CEO, and CryptoCarp, COO. Welcome to the pipeline, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Dude, Danny, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Always good to see you guys. Always good to talk. And yeah, thank you for having us.
Beautiful. Well, I think the community is going to be a little bit surprised about this one because all of the rollout thus far for RareBet has been in stealth. Can you tell us a bit about RareBetSports? What is it?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because it's actually all going back to our strategy. But RareBet Sports is daily fantasy sports built on Monad. I think in the bigger picture, it's an ecosystem that we're developing with sort of our first product being RareLink, and that is the DFS product itself. But you're right, we have been building in stealth, and I think that goes back to, like I said, our strategy there, and just trying to, obviously working behind the scenes, but creating this FOMO and hype and momentum that has been very apparent in terms of like what we're seeing on our social channels. Our socials are even locked right now, and we have a couple hundred requests just like waiting to even get into our Twitter channel. So it's very exciting.
Super exciting, for sure. And I am familiar with fantasy sports, as I'm sure most of the audience is, but I've never heard of daily fantasy sports before. What is daily fantasy sports?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I think a lot of people, especially in Web3, are more familiar with your traditional sportsbook style of betting, where you're placing bets for money lines or over-unders on total scores, but it's generally very focused on the outcome of the game itself. With daily fantasy sports, we're actually focusing more so on the players and their statistics, and you're testing your skill really to see if you can predict whether our given line is going to be accurate, higher, or lower than what is given. So you've actually seen this become really popular here in the US with Prize Picks, and you see these bigger Web 2, I think, industry giants exploring this DFS vertical even more. There's a ton of reasons for it, one of which is because it's a lot easier to, I think, onboard less savvy bettors into the space. I mean, these days, it's the players are the stars of these leagues. It's not necessarily the teams anymore. It's LeBron James. It's the, Patrick Mahomes as opposed to the Chiefs and so on and so forth. So we really think that this DFS vertical that's grown really quickly here in the U.S. can have massive potential to grow internationally. So that's kind of our job, and that's kind of our mission, is to, I think, onboard the next billion crypto users through sports and through our RBS ecosystem. So that's the vision, and that's kind of the also differentiating factor of DFS and sports books is how it's looked at legally as well. So we completely operate within a carve-out here in the U.S. that differentiates a sports book between gambling and DFS. So we built our product around that carve-out there, and it's been really fortunate because you see in especially Web3, the oversaturation of sports books. And that in itself is great in terms of bringing, this sort of application to crypto. But at its essence, they're all white labeled. They're not, none of these current Web3 sports books are really proprietary in any way. And you can see that in the fact that a lot of the casino games they offer are all the same casino games. That was something we really, really wanted to stay away from, was having these third-party, I think, actors within our ecosystem, just because, if your game provider goes out of business, next thing you know, your whole business is ruined. So for us, it was really important to build something proprietary, something built with Web3 in mind and Web3 first, but also, of course, abstracting away from the blockchain to be, a consumer-facing app.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because in crypto, most consumer-facing applications have this North Star goal of onboarding the next billion to crypto.
Right.
And at this point, it gets tossed around in, most conversations, and it's kind of like a tagline or a buzzword. But, particularly in this context, it's been really interesting to see not only the fantasy sports, but the sports gambling side of things really evolve in the past couple years. I mean, just in my own personal network, seeing tons of sports fans having a more like engaging and enriching experience through a lot of these Web 2 apps. And I think, it's awesome to see teams like yours thinking about the ways that crypto can actually crypto and blockchain integrations can actually make this experience much better. So, when comparing yourselves to some of the Web 2 incumbents, what sort of like innovative mechanics or unique features does RareBet offer?
Yeah, well, we can start kind of at the top, right? Like, so the one that everybody says is community, right? So what Web 2 lacks is this community-focused approach. And we've kind of built that into our DNA from the beginning and with this product in mind, RareLink. So what we're actually able to do, because we're built with Web3 first, we're actually able to, reward various communities on our platform and with the product itself. So the idea of RareLink actually kind of started during the bear market of how can we provide utility to a lot of these tokens and communities and NFT communities that, had a great successful launch, but now they're struggling to really drive revenue to their projects, especially when, secondary sales disappeared and it became very, hard to make money as an NFT community. So we started thinking, how can we really build out a utility, a tool, a game that allows people to, one, give utility to their project, but also just come and have fun. And I think that's been like a really big and important thing that maybe crypto's kind of lost along the way is like we're all here to have fun. We like making money, that's great, but we also have this community aspect and we also want to have fun. So I think we've been able to build a product that really differentiates in Web 2 from Web 2. And that of course comes back to all the communities that we're working with to bring utility to them, and the fact that we're proprietary, right? So like new features that we'll be releasing, really easy for us to do. And as the crypto narrative evolves, we can evolve with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, how would you describe the distinction like RareLink and RareBetSports?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so RareBetSports is, I would say, our ecosystem, our parent company, right? So RareBetSports, we will be releasing quite a few games, quite a few products within the sports and crypto vertical, and RareLink is our first product. So RareLink, if you're familiar with, like I mentioned, Prize Picks, it's a pick'em style game, selecting over/under on player props, and of course, eventually hoping to, triple, quadruple, 100x your crypto. So that's the idea there.
Very cool. Very cool. And started to touch on the community piece already. But, what advantages have you already seen that are, directly related to building this product in crypto on top of a blockchain that you might not see at all if you were trying to build this as an app in Web 2?
Yeah, I mean, so one, there's an oversaturation in Web 2, not necessarily in the DFS vertical, but I think in the sports gambling vertical, you see, and I mean, just the barriers to entry even in Web 2 are very high. So I think when it comes to Web 3 and what we're doing in onboarding, it's more seamless than Web 2, I'd say. We work with account abstraction companies, some partners we're getting ready to announce and everything, and it's funny because we wanted to create a product that ended up really innovating within Web 3, but we're actually going to be, I think, innovating in Web 2 as well, which is great. Great to see it come to fruition. I forget what the original question was. Was that online? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. 100%. It was really about the advantages that you see, being able to plug in directly to a community in crypto obviously has its advantages.
And and for a project, I think, that's your first initial users, right? A lot of, especially in tech, they struggle to find the first, 1,000 users. With us, and one of the reasons we wanted to build on Monad was the users are there and they're very hungry for, again, fun. I've worked in plenty of early L1 projects and L1 actual blockchains, and there's only so many AMMs people need. There's only so many dexes, and these projects are all competing to be that, the go-to dex or whatever it may be. And one of the reasons we chose Monad was, one, because of our positioning within the ecosystem, being the first DFS platform, day one, etc., but also because of the user base and community that you guys have done such an insane job of cultivating. So we think with our product and everything, it really gives you a place to do something fun with your token immediately as soon as you get it. Because to be frank, I think I think governance and staking is just so boring in crypto, especially. It's like, take my token, and then we see different innovations come of that. But at the end of the day, I think we're providing a really cool touch point for fun communities to come join.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I was someone who really discovered Monad and the Monad community as a general crypto participant and community member. And this was back, early 2023, middle of a bear market. Wasn't a lot going on the Twitter timeline, the community chats, Discord, Telegram. Everything was really boring. So to hop into the Monad community Telegram and Discord and see just this nonstop barrage of memes and content and people coming together was it was like the early stages of users getting excited for products like this. And with the performance that Monad is poised to offer on the technical side of things, enabling apps like this to grow and scale to incredibly large user bases is one of those initial value propositions that got me really excited just as a crypto user. So it's been a long time of waiting for some of these Monad native apps to announce, and it's clear that there's a lot of differentiation in the Monad ecosystem, both in terms of what the community is interested in and how they'll actually interface with apps, but also on the builder side as well. What's really unlocked with 10,000 transactions per second, sub-cent gas fees, directly in an EVM environment. Curious, were those some of the considerations that you made as a team when deciding to build this as a Monad native project?
100%. 100%. If you look at I think even in Web 2, last Super Bowl, they did, upwards of 100,000 bets per second, right? And obviously that's not where we're at, but eventually that's where we want to get. And to build a foundation on top of Monad that's capable of the transaction speeds we need, the low cost gas fees, allows us to do all these things as a consumer app that we want to do, right? We don't have to burden the user with gas fees. We don't have to burden the user with long wait times for settlements. That all really does come down to Monad and what you guys have built there. But even on in the terms of a fundraising perspective, fundraising on Monad has been great for us because you guys have provided so much exposure, and even people that weren't able to get exposure into your guys' fundraising round want exposure in other ways. And this consumer app narrative is very popular, and for us to be on Monad with that narrative, with the Web 2 applicability of sports, it's been really beneficial for us in just raising for our round and everything. So that's always a bonus, of course.
Totally. I think just kind of what I was describing previously, the value proposition of Monad is, one, very easy to understand, and two, it's fulfilling a need in terms of what the entire market is talking about for crypto. We need apps that bring on new users, that enable new experiences, that are genuinely fun to use and have a chance at a decent life cycle beyond something that just goes viral for a week or a month and then it trickles off and it's gone. And it's clear that fantasy sports and sports betting more broadly has that market fit in Web 2, and and not
only that, it's sports provides year-round entertainment and year-round opportunities for us as a project. Even in bear markets, you see that gambling doesn't necessarily drop off. People always still want to gamble even in a bear market, And the fact that we can kind of approach that in a bear resistance perspective, and also leverage, of course, like I said, the sports aspect and of Web 2 and where they're at currently. I think it's a great recipe for success for us.
Yeah, I'm curious, for each of your perspectives on this, like, is there a particular, like, from the user perspective, is there a particular, like, contest or sport or event that you're really excited to be able to support on the platform?
I know Brian and I both have different opinions here, but I'm more of like very football, NFL, NBA focused. Like Lakers are my team, Chargers are my team. But I think because we are on the blockchain, it provides us with a lot of really cool opportunities. Like, blockchain gaming is growing, on-chain gaming is growing. That's something that Web 2 companies will never be able to touch, right? So for us, there's a lot of interesting games being built that we're discussing. How we can apply betting odds to this, etc. But even more so, it comes to, I think, what CryptoCarp would say would be esports.
Yeah, that's what I was going to dive into.
Yeah.
But from a high level, no, I'm very excited about NBA. So depending on exact go-to-market date and how that falls into sports schedules, we'll probably have English Premier League, NFL, and NBA when we roll out, and that will change as the sports cycles change throughout the year. But what I'm really interested in and focused on and have been scoping is all of the esports that we can bring in. And we currently have data feeds to League of Legends and CS2 and CSGO, I believe. So we're very excited to try to roll some of that out. Looking from a high level about some of the betting data, it is growing rapidly, betting on esports, and we're hoping to capture some of that. But it has a ways to go. So we're going to market with some of more of the traditional avenues, and we'll scale outwards when it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart strategy. One thing that comes to mind was just like, Olympics is top of mind, Summer Olympics going on right now. And I recently saw Olympic Committee voted to include esports as an official Olympic sport. So I think
100%.
Definitely early on that front, but it's very clear that attention is basically just skyrocketing on esports. Fans want ways to have a deeper experience when spectating, feel more in the game, if you will, when they're watching their favorite streamers compete. So I love that you guys are thinking about that. I think it's going to be really, really fun, and honestly, I'm excited to be able to tell folks in Web 2 that I know who already play fantasy sports or already gamble on sports, like, hey, here's an app in crypto that you can understand right off the bat and easily use. Because oftentimes for the normie, you're describing a blockchain like Monad as basically like this almost like permissionless app store in a sense. I feel like that's a way that people kind of can understand like what the infrastructure component is for at least a lot of blockchains like Monad. But to be able to actually point at an app is going to be cool.
Yeah, when I describe it, I always say that because I'm talking to people all the time. They're like, "What's Monad? What is this?" I'm like, "They're the PlayStation, and we're building the first game on the PlayStation." Which kind of puts it into perspective. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. So I know there's, a decent portion of the Monad community, definitely all the Monad loyalists and sports fans watching this episode right now. And, I'm sure they're curious what onboarding is going to look like. Typically, the crypto onboarding experience is kind of rough for someone who's never used blockchain before. So, how are you guys thinking about, the onboarding experience? What will that look like for the crypto native or, someone who's maybe never interfaced with crypto before?
It's exactly that. It's two totally different approaches for Web 2 and Web 3. Through Web 2, with our awesome account abstraction partner that I guess we're not mentioning currently, there are tools that will, what we're hoping will be a game-changing in terms of getting Web 2 users online. And I guess to take a step back further than that, when we look at apps that kind of inspired us while building this, a lot of it goes back to really early on, super early on NBA Top Shot on Flow. And what they did so successfully and so masterfully was hiding the blockchain underneath a beautiful user interface to where Web2 users could come on and just think, cool, I'm buying these moments. Their NFTs are now called moments, which are just videos, and I own these videos and you don't. And that was really successful for a really long time, and then wasn't for a variety of other reasons. But we kind of took that into account. How can we develop the most beautiful user interface and with a wonderful user experience, and then hide up, or I guess kind of put the blockchain underneath all of that? And that's what we've done with our app so far. So I guess to answer the question, for Web 2, we plan on using account abstraction tools. So you can log in with Twitter, you can log in with Facebook, and we'll incentivize people to do these actions, and they will be rewarded for doing so. And on the Web 3 side of things, maybe, Zach, you can speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, standard Web3 logins, obviously we're going to try and provide all the tools on the app so that if you need to on-ramp, if you need to bridge, etc., we're currently working with a few partners in that regard. But yeah, it shouldn't be any harder than it already is. In fact, it should be a lot easier. But this also comes down to, sort of our go-to-market strategies for both of these audiences. Of course, on the Web3, it's very community intensive, very, partnering with these various, I'd say, well-known token and NFT communities and making sure that they're gaining full utility from our first product, RareLink. But then on the Web 2 side, we have a few interesting strategies when it comes to, I think, implementing and launching into the US, right? The US is very litigious, so it's kind of a lot of red tape to go through, but our strategy is I think, pretty seamless and involves a few, cool free-to-play games that you could get on the App Store, right? So in essence, we're using the App Store and sort of our US presence to funnel into our Web3 community and make them crypto users as well. So that's kind of the interesting approach there, I think. But yeah, like I mentioned, and as everybody's mission is to onboard as many new crypto users as possible. And Brian touched on that with the account abstraction and our beautiful UX. And really the goal is when you come onto RBS or RareLink, you don't even know you're interacting with the blockchain. And I think we've nailed that pretty well.
Yeah, that's huge. I love the way that you guys are thinking about this, and as I just mentioned, I'm sure a lot of the community members that are listening in are as well. Typically, the listeners to the pipeline are pretty crypto native, as much as I wish some of the Web 2 natives were tuning in as well. Maybe we'll get there someday, but for the Web 3 natives and for the Monad community, I'm sure watching along with this podcast is going to cause them to have a lot of excitement and want to get involved. So for the Monad community, for the broader crypto community, how can they get involved in RareBetSports, in supporting you guys, in getting involved?
Yeah, I mean, I would say your best bet is to just try and get involved as early as possible. We have an early access beta program that we'll be launching. So the first users in our Discord, the first followers on our Twitter, will be handing out early access codes. And actually, you'll see a lot of your favorite influencers giving those out as well. So I definitely keep an eye out for early access codes, but also just hop in the Discord and have fun. Follow us on Twitter. We are building in stealth, but me and Brian, or me and CryptoCarp and the rest of the team are all very active online and within our own personal channels. So yeah, that's what I would say. Just keep an eye out and try and get into our Twitter if you can right now, and eventually try and get into our Discord.
Beautiful. And we got a little bit of insight on the inspiration for RareBetSports, mostly coming from the Web 2 side of things, kind of seeing the market fit that daily fantasy sports is starting to achieve, as well as sports betting more broadly. But pretty clear you guys are crypto natives as well. So would love to hear, how do you guys participate in crypto as users? And did that have any impact on the inspiration for RareBet?
Yeah,
I'm a prediction market guy. So how a lot of this started was me on PancakeSwap, just going up or down on BNB to USD pairs or to the cake to USD pairing that they do. I just kind of went heavy into that for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And obviously expanded beyond that too into like different games on Soul Casino and Crash X. Spent a lot of time there.
Lost a lot of money, made a lot
Lost
of
a lot of
money.
money, won a lot of money, lost the money again. But everyone knows that story. So a lot of it came from firsthand experience. We just got in there, got down and dirty. We tried everything and anything. We decided what we loved, what we don't like, what we could like if there were changes made to it. And I guess that helped us kind of craft our vision. And I guess to expand upon that, it is slightly more Web 2, but there was a company called Monkey Knife Fight, and one of our advisors, Daniel Tawai, was the CMO of Monkey Knife Fight, and he was tasked when he came on board to create a user experience that you could create a bet and close out your entire wager in 3 clicks or less. And that was something they did very successfully, and they actually exited for like 50 mil to Bally Casino Group early on, like maybe 2015, 2016. And Danny was able to take these narratives and bring them to us, and he said, all right, guys, one up that. So that was actually how we developed our kind of mobile UI, where we use a swiping approach instead of clicking, to where you can really just close a wager with a single click rather than 2 or 3. So that was kind of our little hack. But it was a bunch of things. We took in like a totally macro perspective and then drilled down about what we want our vision to look like and what adds value, what doesn't add value, what's just for show and vanity. And we ended up with the product that we have today.
Yeah, and I think on my side, my initial, well, let's start. I guess the beginning of my initial crypto was buying a Coachella ticket or not a Coachella, a fake ID to go to Coachella with Bitcoin.
Allegedly.
Which I think is now probably the most expensive like fake ID that was ever probably purchased at the time, or now, whatever. But yeah, from there we just kind of got into more DeFi NFT applications and started building. And now, I mean, I think the past year I've spent so much time on Deck Screener and Telegram chats just trading shit coins and memes and stuff that it's definitely been a lot of fun, I'd say, the past year. And it kind of goes back to that thing that we're after, right? Is just like having more fun in these ecosystems and seeing where new innovation can take place. So I think a lot of those things, a lot of our experience in crypto led us to developing RBS and sort of our vision of what we want it to look like.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because you could come completely from the Web 2 side of things and have some basic knowledge of crypto and say like, okay, sports betting, daily fantasy sports has strong indications of market fit in Web 2, seems like an open playing field in Web 3. But to really drill down on what users are looking for, what's gonna move the needle in terms of growth and adoption, I feel like you really have to be in the trenches, if you will, as 100%. A crypto user. And having that background, you guys can like almost build for yourselves in a sense. Does it feel like that as you're like iterating on the product?
100%. And even I think we might have skipped over, but Brian and I keep saying Brian, we'll have to cut that out. CryptoCarp. And I come from a Launchpad background. So we've spent the past like 3 years helping, incubating, and launching various token projects. We've seen what works, we've seen what doesn't work, we've seen what capacity they do work in. And so learning all of that stuff, we've been able to kind of craft RBS into exactly that, our vision of what we want this to be. And, I think we've proven that we're doing it the right way in how we go about building this that is going to be reflected once we launch for sure. Because we've seen it. We've seen people do this the right way. We've seen them do it the wrong way. We've seen success. We've seen failures. But I think, at this point in the game, it's 5-6 years building in crypto that we've gotten a pretty good grasp of what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. One area that also stood out to me that it's very clear you guys have thought about in depth is time to fun. This concept of like how quickly can you go from like downloading an app to actually having a fun experience on that app.
Yeah.
And it's like almost old news in Web 2. Like all the biggest growth hackers for apps in Web 2 will tell you like cut down that time to fun as much as you possibly can. But in crypto, like the onboarding is typically so bad that you have people taking 15, 20, maybe even more steps to actually get up and running in an application before they can even have any fun experience.
I mean, I was just thinking today, like setting up a new wallet, even for a Web3 user, is like a pain in the ass. Like I have to set up the new wallet. I got to get it funded, which means I got to fund my Sex account to get it to the, the wallet and everything. So even in Web3, it's like that time to fund still takes a bit of time. And there's the opportunity for us, right? Like with these tools we use and how we're building the architecture, I think that time to fund can be cut down, like you mentioned, and very quickly than what we're used to seeing.
Definitely. And the swiping mechanic, I think, is really cool for daily fantasy. I don't know. Hopefully this isn't insulting, but I've heard it described almost as like a Tinder for sports betting.
The Tinder UX.
That was our exact vision, right? It's like, how can we make this user experience something that's innovative in our industry, but is very familiar with the, users as a whole? And so that, Tinder left, right swiping is kind of ubiquitous with like, dating apps, but it's obviously really applicable, I think, in terms of the experience with what we're building as well. So it's interesting, it's new, and like I said, we're building this proprietary, so we can do things like this. We can make it a cool experience, we can add what we want, we can take away, and I think that's the beauty of sort of this whole ecosystem we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have all these like proof of concepts and tests from Web 2,
right? Exactly.
In terms of like how different social medias and dating sites and games and betting platforms have innovated on the user experience side of things to really like, again, minimize that time to fun and also just like keep people in the app, keep, refreshing content and meeting the user where they're at, more broadly speaking. So I'm super excited to see this go live. Even more excited that it's on Monad.
Yeah, no, we're so stoked, and again, it's been a pleasure working with you guys. I mean, top down, the team is like a bunch of killers. You guys know what you're doing. You guys communicate well, and we can't say enough thanks to the entire Monad team. It's been awesome.
Well, appreciate that very much. We're definitely working hard to give teams like yours the tools and resources that they need to grow and scale, because ultimately the success of the Monad ecosystem, the success of the apps on top of Monad is the success of Monad itself. So that is critically important. And I think you guys are a team that saw that vision really, really early. I believe you were committed to build on Monad long before I joined the team full time this past December. So definitely one of the earliest consumer apps to announce, at least privately, as Monad native. So I'm sure it's an exciting time to be getting close to the point where you're going public. And
I know we're freaking out. We just can't wait to share this with you guys, with the community. I mean, we have some sneak peeks out there that I'm sure you guys have all seen, but even on socials, we got people hitting us up every day wanting to get in. So yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, so by the time this podcast comes out, we'll likely be a little bit further with, some announcements from your side of things. Maybe the Twitter will be open. I know it's private for now. But for the community members listening in and looking to learn a bit more, where can they find RareBetSports? On Twitter, Discord, website?
Yeah, Twitter, once it's open, but I would honestly just go to RareBetSports.io. You'll see all our links there. You can kind of get an update on sort of when our early access program will be going live. But yeah, check that out for sure.
Beautiful. I'm excited too, and I'm sure the community is as well. And wouldn't be a pipeline episode if we didn't wrap up with our recurring final question, shamelessly ripped from the best crypto podcast of all time, Up Only, with Kobe and Ledger.
Classic.
It is the final alpha question. This does not have to be traditional crypto alpha. In fact, it's often better if it's not. But any advice you guys would give to listeners, it could be from the builder perspective, could be for community participants in crypto, could even be general life advice. Take it any way you'd like. But final alpha, the floor is open.
Yeah, I'll hop in. I think honestly, it just comes back to what I said before, is like, don't forget to have fun in what we're building and what you're doing here in crypto. Obviously, it's a very monetary driven industry. But But at the end of the day, I think the fun aspect is really what separates it from, traditional finance. And why a lot of us are here. Like, I love going on Twitter and seeing the most outrageous memes, and the fact that it's coming from Van Eck or something is amazing, right? And that's the fun aspect that we want to continue building with and keep in mind when it comes to our future rollouts and RareLink and RBS in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess all I can have to add on that is we're RareBetSports. We're putting the D in daily fantasy sports.
Boom.
Boom.
Our new tagline.
Love
Awesome.
it. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. It's great to learn more about one of the most exciting Monad native app teams coming soon. Very excited to chat with Zachy and CryptoCarp here. Thanks again for coming on, guys. And
Thanks, Danny.
to the community, be sure to follow them on Twitter when it's public and check out rarebetsports.io.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Danny. Appreciate it.